Friggin'
Hello.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another exciting installment of Analytical Fanboys, the monthly media club podcast from Modular Media. I am one of your hosts and this month's media selector, the Vacuuminator, but I am joined, as always, by my wise and masterful friend, Boingo Ryder.
Oh my god. I am masterful.
Yes, you are aware of what DNA stands for. Congratulations on your wisdom. Uh, but Buster Corp, my macho and manly brother, is here.
That's Sergeant Buster Corp to you.
Oh no, he's gonna make me run laps around the base.
That's right.
And the sliveriest and slimiest Snowcone 83.
Howdy.
I to do today.
Oh, you just had to do that in front of God and everyone.
I did. I really did. It was the only comeback I could come up with on a fucking second's notice. But yes, everyone, it's my month to pick, and I picked a fucking G.I. Joe miniseries from the 1984, I think is when the Sunbow cartoon started airing. It might have been 83. But this is the opening five-parter of Season 2 of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. Arise, Serpentor, Arise. Five-parters were actually a huge part of the G.I. Joe cartoon because it started off as like a mini-series, and then it went so well, and the toys were selling so well that they were like, let's do another. And then...
Wasn't it a weekday cartoon? Like every day of the week it got a new episode?
Well, that's the thing, is they would do a miniseries that would air in 5 parts throughout a week, and then that would do so well that a few months later they'd do another one, and then that one did so well that they were like, let's do another one, but then let's also do a season of TV after that 5-parter, and then they came back after that and did Season 2, I think like a year later. Which is why Season 1 looks so much bigger than Season 2, because it technically starts with 3 5-parters. But in all honesty, I think this one, the opening of Season 2, is the best one. And I think it's the best part of the entire Sunbow cartoon. There's other, like, individual one-off episodes that are really good, but as far as, like, getting a big, bombastic, all-encompassing G.I. Joe story, I like this. This is actually, story-wise, I think, a little bit better than the movie, even. The movie's probably got better animation and some cooler ideas going on, and the opening is certainly better, but as far as just like an overall piece, I think Arise, Serpentor, Arise is as good as the Sunbow era gets. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it's also, this is the episode we're recording at the end of July, and I always feel... extra G.I. Joe moods coming on during July. I wonder why. Maybe that's because American Independence Day is at the start of the month. But that's enough of my prattling about it. Let's start round robining here. Boingo, was this your first time watching this 5-parter, and how did you feel about it upon this viewing?
Yes, this was the first time I watched this, and watching this, it's very... I find it interesting because, like, several things. First off, story was classic pulp sci-fi military action, which is what G.I. Joe is. It's pulp sci-fi. It doesn't claim to be anything more than that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed a lot was the animation quality, which we can go into at a later point. But I just find it interesting that, like, you compare animation quality for TV animation and just they would have similar budgets and similar techniques, but which techniques they would choose, and between like G.I. Joe and like an anime like Gundam, it's interesting to think about. One thing I would just kind of think is it's good, it's solid. I was completely lost with half the names and characters. It's just like, oh, military guy, oh, another military guy, another military guy. Oh, I mean, look, it's another military guy.
This is coming back after like a year of being off the air, so they're like, oh shit, there's all these new toys we gotta introduce.
But it's just like, what's up, bumfuck? How you doing, bumfuck? And it's just like, what? That's a name. Who? Oh, we don't see him again for the rest of the time? Cool.
uh,
And I was surprised at Sergeant Slaughter. I thought he was always a cameo. I didn't realize he was such an integral part of G.I. Joe.
No, he's like a main character for the entire second season. But Snowcone, was this your first viewing of Arise Serpentor Arise, and how did you feel about it this time around?
I guess it's probably my first viewing of it in order and at one time. I used to watch the original like cartoon. I forget what channel it was on the cable channel my mom had, but it would just like always be running reruns. So I'd just watch it like one episode every morning and shit like that, as it was meant to, I think. But they really didn't put them on in order. But this is like the first time I really gathered it all at once. And what I will say is something like I don't know how y'all watched it, but I watched it like the whole series in one sitting, like the whole mini series here that we watched.
Yeah, I watched the movie compilation cut that's on YouTube while I was editing my Arnold Schwarzenegger video the other day, and I did it all in one sitting.
Yeah, so maybe it would be the same for you or not. I'm not sure, but like for me, it just felt like I don't know. It's like a similar thing that happens if I watch too much of like the original Transformers show in order. Like as much as I love like the themes and stuff like that, and like hearing them say "Yo Joe" and stuff, it was a little berating just to like sit through the entire amount of that and it just be episode to episode to episode. Because I get it's still a little episodic, even though they are like they're following like the Saturday morning vibe. So there was just something about like the cut-ins and cutouts and stuff like that. Although in regards to what like Boingo was saying, I did think it was a little weird seeing them call in like all these different characters. So it's interesting that you what you said in response to that, Vac, because I didn't realize that they hadn't been around since then. Because I had only seen this from the front looking back, you know. I had only like experienced that part of G.I. Joe from like just being a fan of like the toys anyways and just not knowing about stuff. So I would watch like the cartoon every now and then I had the cartoons that I grew up with. But I don't know, I think it was enjoyable for sure. I love seeing the vehicles get used and just the fact that I mean I know they're selling toys, but it does feel like they're dedicated to the lore all the time. But I don't know. That's about all I could say for my opening statement. You're
All
on.
right. Well then, Buster, was
Yeah?
this your first time watching the episodes, and how did you feel about them this time around?
This was my first time watching anything G.I. Joe related.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I did. I've
You
been watching.
got thrown into the deep end.
I'm sorry, actually. Wow, I should have picked like the Snake Eyes movie or something.
I heard that was mid anyway, but whatever. But like, yeah, this was, so I kind of got thrown at the deep end of all these characters, and like, I like Sergeant Slaughter. He's a great character. Like, I apparently he's based on a professional wrestler, so okay,
He's
but
a
like
professional wrestler.
yeah, I could kind of tell he was kind of like a cameo character because the audio quality with him fluctuates like a lot. Sometimes it sounds like he's recording in the locker rooms. Honestly,
Well, there's a story about that. I'll talk about it probably a little later on, but there's a story about that.
Did Slaughter voice himself?
Yeah. Okay. I'll get into it.
Just real quick, I just want to say it is very clear he's not a voice actor.
Yeah, that is the guy doing the voice.
Because it's just his promo voice the entire time. What do you think you're doing, Cobra?
All right, Buster, continue.
yeah. It was for what I was just like someone new to this whole thing and was like saying I gotta watch this. It's fun. I like the Cobra Commander. I always like the design and like attitude of what I know from like cultural osmosis. So it was kind of like, oh, he's getting pushed around by everyone. No, like, but I know he's still like a bad guy. So, what else? The Serpentor didn't show up until like the last 20-40 minutes, so that was interesting choice. I guess it was about him arising.
Yeah.
And I like when Sergeant Slaughter did things. Really, the most I got. Like a lot of the character names didn't stick. A lot of cool designs, but again, I love the names. Sorry.
That's okay. I guess that's the first thing we should talk about then, going into like specific topics. Is it seems like, because for me, that whole thing that like Boingo was making fun of like they'd say a character's name and then wouldn't get back to him. For me, like that opening scene at the pit, I think it is, or I forget if they have a different headquarters in the cartoon, but it is where they're just walking around talking about like, yeah, things have been tough lately, so we're all kind of like taking a day off and just introducing like, here's this character, and you're getting like a little taste of everybody. That's like one of my favorite parts of the entire miniseries, because to me, I like those little introductions of just like getting a simple beat that is who this character is. And I guess knowing G.I. Joe, it's a little extra fun for me, whereas for you guys it's very confusing, because a lot of the characters they introduce in that scene are featured throughout the miniseries. Like when they all split up and go guard the various tombs, they're each on one of those teams, but I suppose it's like there's so much shit going on that you can't really keep track of it if you're not knowing what you're supposed to be looking for.
Yeah, there's also what I would call proper noun syndrome. It's just like because it's a toy commercial, they have to say the name of every single proper noun to make sure it's in the kid's head of like, is this the character you want? They're called blank. Blank.
Yeah.
Oh, how are you doing? Blank. What's going on? And it's not a problem with the writing because it's very deliberate. It's understanding. There's a reason behind it. But when you don't know, when you can't put the name to the face, it just kind of becomes a garbled mess.
That's entirely fair, I guess. But
Yeah,
I mean,
like I don't have a complaint with that part of it, just because like for me it's just like, oh yep, it's like, oh cool snow job, oh cool low light, oh cool tripwire, and and it's just that the whole time I'm just like, yeah, I don't really, okay, I get that, that's fine, but like I don't know, that's not anything bad for me, although I do find it interesting, or I guess I couldn't think that it would be an issue.
There is also the fact that like
I have
they
a feeling if
all
I
have
had like a visual guide to the side of me of like their face with their name underneath it, I would probably be able to follow it more. It's just getting all of the names, all of the faces all at once was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you had Joepedia pulled up, it would probably be a lot easier. But there is also the thing of, like, they all have Transformer names. I mean, I know G.I. Joe came before Transformers, but they all had code names of, like, this guy is Dial Tone, this guy is Mainframe, this guy is Lowlight. There's no, like, Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yeah. Like, after a while, I was able to like put names and faces together and go like, oh yeah, Beachhead. Okay, Beachhead seems like a cool guy. He's trying to be the serious guy, and he's in over his head. Like, okay, I can get this.
It's
like,
interesting how he's characterized in this, because he's almost like a good guy Starscream, where the miniseries opens with him being like, everybody's fucking slacking off. This is bullshit. If I was in charge, this wouldn't happen. And General Hawk's like, well, there's a reason. You can't just fight until fucking you pass out, dude. That's not healthy.
And that's something that I always found funny about it, just because like I don't know, like growing up like with like military kid and like all my other friends were like big fans of like military stuff and like watching stuff like this, like just like seeing like him being like insubordinate to like a general and just be like, oh man, he'd be fired right there. That'd be it for him right there.
That is
I
pure
get it,
80s cartoon.
Yeah. But I always like appreciate the fact that G.I. Joe is like the code name is what they're doing. It's what they are, like their specialization.
And I do love some of their designs. Sci-Fi was cool looking.
Always.
I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. I like the pacifist guy. I understand he's seemingly written to be like a wet blanket, but I like him just as like, guys, I just want to make sure no one gets hurt.
Yeah, Lifeline is a great character. He gets a lot of good spotlight episodes later in the season. And I do love, like you said, the relationship between him and Beachhead in this, where, like, again, part of Beachhead's whole tirade at the beginning is just like, there's a pacifist in G.I. Joe. What the hell is happening to us? And then later, he fucking tricks him into helping them trick the guards to get into the Terrordrome.
Oh, well, that was definitely a 100% like kids these days style, like boomer like what the fuck is like times changing, I don't like it type shit.
To me, it also felt like could have been a reference to MASH.
Mm-hmm. And like at this time, that would almost be like Greatest Generation versus Boomers, wouldn't it?
It might have been no, because Boomers would have been the ones making the cartoon. It would have been Gen X.
Oh,
Gen X would. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? We'll figure it out.
one day.
It's just a man yells at clouds.
Yeah. Man yells at clouds. Is this the first appearance of the bats?
Yes, which I find hilarious because I thought there was some kind of mention of like, oh, Dr. Mindbender built them, but literally you see Scrap Iron assembling the last one, and Cobra Commander's like, are they good to go? And he's like, yeah, I'm loading them into the truck now. And then they just go and fucking storm the G.I. Joe base. Like their entire plan. It's like a fucking Power Rangers episode where they're like, we don't care about ruling the world right now. We just want to go fuck up G.I. Joe. We want to fuck with their day because we built these robots.
Yeah. It's great to see him in action.
Yeah, I do like how they're portrayed in this episode.
Cartoon, always.
I'm sorry, Cody. I kind of stepped over you. What did you say?
Oh, I like them in concept more than I do in like action in cartoon, but they're still like always appreciated. I think G.I. Joe the cartoon is great. I think I like G.I. Joe the comic way more than I did the cartoon, but it's always been like G.I. Joe just what it is more than anything.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Because we're also going back, and me and you, Cody, we're also going back and rereading the comic for Saturday morning panels right now. And we're only 2 issues in, but that series is a lot more straight-faced, no-nonsense, like we are just doing a military story here than the cartoon is. The cartoon has a lot more time for silly bullshit than Larry Hama's comic does. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think there's room for both interpretations, but it is just interesting to observe of like certain things that happen here definitely wouldn't happen there.
Oh, I think the happy medium is somewhere between both of them. You know, it's going to be a little this one time, a little that another, but a happy medium definitely would be what I consider it to be most of the time. Like as far as like how I picture them.
But speaking of silly bullshit, there's one element of this episode that we haven't really talked about at all yet, and I want to kind of get it out of the way. How did everyone feel about the Dreadnoks in this? Because they kind of get a spotlight here.
Dreadnoks, are those the robots? Or?
No, those are the Australians.
Oh, the Australians. They were Australians. What can I say?
But seriously, this is a totally accurate representation of what Australian culture is like. I don't care.
I've always loved them.
Monkey Wrench was fun. I liked him.
Yeah. I love how Thrasher is just like blatantly a dickhead who's trying to get fame and glory, and they only let him on because he has a cool car. Also, like there's some good spotlight for Zorana going and raiding the Egyptian tomb and setting up kind of that she would be a bigger character later on in this season, which I don't know, it's probably something you guys definitely didn't pick up on, but it was just something I appreciated this time around because this is the first time I watched it since watching the whole of the season in order last year for the first time. But yeah, it was a smart use of the Dreadnoks too, I thought, because it's like Cobra doesn't want to directly devote all their forces to this until they have to, so they hire these mercenaries who have also like dicked them over a bunch of times before, which is kind of a reoccurring theme with Cobra here. And again, a big part of why I like this, you know, the stereotype with 80s cartoons is people always think of it as like, oh, the bad guys are just a bunch of silly assholes and they're always united in their wanting to fuck with the bad guys and they always lose and just go, oh, we'll get them next time. This is the story where the bad guys go, yo, we have lost like dozens of times now and we need a change. Let's fucking make a new leader and go behind our current leader's back. And that just kickstarts a bunch of infighting that is all throughout this miniseries, which I love.
Yeah, and it's also just a good excuse to, like, that's how you introduce your new toys and stuff. How do action figures are just like, yeah, of course, because new threats. We need new fresh faces to help. You know, it's like, makes sense.
Yeah, it
It's
kicks
also
off with... Go ahead.
Go.
No, you go.
You're the one who has more knowledge.
Okay. It's also just like, yeah, they're throwing in the robots. Like I think we hadn't seen the Televipers before this episode in the cartoon. I'm not sure. And this is also the first appearance of Scrap Iron and Dr. Mindbender. And they just kind of act like those two have always been there, but that's fine. And like it's also interesting. One of my favorite bits of history I've learned about GI Joe in the last couple of years since getting back into it really heavily is, do you guys want to know the story of like how this episode and the movie both came about?
Sure.
So, the writer of this episode and like overall head of production for the cartoon was being shown the new toys for this year while they were still in the concept stage for season 2, and like their big final unveil Hasbro was doing to be like, oh, and this is we want this to be the centerpiece of the cast of characters for this year. Look, this is the new big bad villain, the Cobra Emperor, Serpentor. And they're like, wait, we've been portraying Cobra Commander as the head villain all this time and not acting like there's anybody above him. How are we supposed to explain this? And they're like, I don't know, you're the story people, figure it out. And so a week later, the guy goes back to Hasbro and he's like, all right, I got 2 ideas. Number 1, we say he's always been here, and Cobra Commander was just a figurehead, and now he's going to be deposed. Or they genetically engineer him, and he's like a big monster mash. And Hasbro went, I love it, do it. Which one? Both, do it. And so they came up with here, they make Serpentor, and then later in the movie, it gets retconned that the whole like crazy dream sequence Dr. Mindbender has was a message that was telepathically sent to him by the underground society that Cobra Commander has been secretly working for all this time.
Nice.
Right? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
That's where I thought a little bit of this was gonna like go anyways. It is super fucking funny that you just said that this was Mindbender's first appearance. I had no idea, and man, you could not convince me that. Like, you could not have sold that to me within the media itself, for sure.
Yeah. Because he just shows up and he's like, you fucked it up with the bats, Cobra Commander. You're always fucking it up. And, like, I imagine kids in the 80s must have been like, I'm sorry, who are you?
Who the fuck is this guy?
and and Cobra Commander just acts like they've known each other for years. He's like, shut up. You're always fucking shit-talking me. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Classic fumble.
Well, speaking of Cobra Commander, I do like his goons, all the little henchmen of the Cobra side. Like, him and Cobra Commander have the best designs. And, of course, Sergeant Slaughter, but those are, like, the design, because I know this is supposed to make me want to buy toys, so I was like, okay, what designs do I want? What characters do I like? And, like, those
were you looking at classified series figures after this, Buster?
No, but, like, I was like, GameStop still had a Sergeant Slaughter. Maybe it's still there.
Ooh.
I'll look into it. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll collect this line. I already have, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just started their toy line, and I, like, get on that. So.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, like, you don't even really need to collect classified series. Just get the 1 or 2 characters you like, if you want to.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single design I disliked in this thing. There are some I liked more than others, but like I don't think there was one I disliked.
Yeah, and anything I disliked was like just personal preference. Like, not my thing. But like, there's no bad designs here. They're all like good action figure military thing. If you're
or like fun mercenary looking dudes.
Yeah,
with the bad guys.
I like when the like either sunglasses or helmets to help obscure their face. I think that's like my preference in terms of G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, hey, we don't have to animate as much.
Yeah.
There's one bit. Go ahead.
Like I'm going through the G.I. Joe wiki and I'm just pulling up Low Light, which seems to be like Hasbro had a thing where the good guys, they were all the good guys, but there were a couple members of like the Autobots that weren't fully on the up and up. Like they were a little bit of an asshole. They just happened to be on the right side. And just from this 5-part series, it seemed like Lowlight was kind of that way. He was like a little like aggro. He's just like, no, there is a way to fucking deal with them. It's called fucking shooting them.
Yeah, there's actually an episode later in the season where they delve into that. And it turns out that Lowlight has like severe PTSD and gets nightmares. And he's just like really fucking aggro.
Yeah,
But like
and,
that is the accurate character. Like he is kind of the not all the good guys are perfectly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just like it really does make it seem that like some of these guys really were military, some of these guys maybe not have been. You know, it kind of gives me that vibe sometimes. But
Well,
it still is realistic.
one of them directly mentioned, "Oh, this was like back in Nam."
Yep.
Yeah,
So, like-
I think it was mainframe, because at the in that whole beginning montage, General Hawk tells Mainframe and Dial Tone off for playing video games when they're supposed to be watching the security cameras, and he's like, "Oh, well, I learned in Nam that you have to occasionally divert your attention when you're on monitor duty, otherwise you'll get a 1,000-yard stare." Like, I think that's literally the line. So it's interesting
but
that
like joking around.
Yeah. It's interesting though that they leave that reference in, especially when there's shit in this like and they were pre-established characters, but there is a whole subplot where Duke and a couple other characters go to protect a tomb in the Arctic, and they join up, or no, not in the Arctic, in Russia. They go to protect Ivan the Terrible's tomb, and the October Guard, who are the Russian equivalent of G.I. Joe, go and join up with them to defend it. And this was in the fucking 80s.
You know what? I appreciate that though. I like when properties like this were like, "Yo, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck all this propaganda bullshit. Let's put a Russian on the fucking. Let's make a Russian a good guy." With like Star Trek did it.
It's not a very good look for the Russians though, because it's just like
they are still stereotypes, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying I appreciate the trope because it's with Colossus 2 and the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate that it's a neat trope, and it's a holdover of that specific time, you know.
I really got nothing else. It's like it was neat. It was
I mean, you
fun.
keep bringing up Sergeant Slaughter, but there is more to talk about with.
Yeah, what is there? Are you gonna disclose some information about Slaughter?
Yeah, I was gonna say like there's behind the scenes stuff to talk about with him too, because like that was like a whole tear Hasbro got on at this time of like they got him, they got William the Refrigerator Perry, and I think they got one other guy, or no, they were trying to get Sylvester Stallone to be Rocky Balboa. They were going to put Rocky Balboa as a character in G.I. Joe, but ultimately that deal fell through. And Sergeant Slaughter is the one that, like, actually he fully bought in, and they put him in the cartoon and everything. And you can really tell that it is pure celebrity cameo and also just a professional wrestler trying to get as big a payday as he can, because, again, he becomes, like, a main character for this whole season of the cartoon. But the whole reason for that is because he needed to get residuals and get in SAG to cover his ass for a while, because when Vince McMahon found out that he signed on with Hasbro, he was like, dude, I just signed a deal with another toy company. That's a conflict of interest. I have to suspend you now, you idiot.
Oh. So that's why he's like always associated with G.I. Joe, is just because he got suspended early?
I mean, he did eventually get back into WWF, and he had a few major storylines after this. Like, I think it was a while after this that he had the whole Iraqi sympathizer storyline.
Yeah, that was in the beginning of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, so like, he's done stuff with WWE since. It's not like a hard feelings thing. It was just more like, at that time, he was like, shit, I can't make money wrestling. I need to be in this I need to get as much money from this toy company as I can.
Well, it's also not like, he's not Sergeant Slaughter, the wrestler, in the cartoon. He's Sergeant Slaughter, a drill sergeant in the cartoon.
Yeah, which was his wrestling character. But it's interesting that they just adapted that instead of going like, look, it's famous professional wrestler Sergeant Slaughter. Especially with how hard they go on it. Like, he is a pure Gary Stu in this. And just like, he can do no wrong. He is always fucking right about what the Joes need to be doing. And he kicks the shit out of every single Cobra he comes across.
Plus, Gary's doing more like experience because he still struggles against the villains. He's not like one punching everyone. But like, yeah, it's still like he just.
I mean, he has very little flaw.
Yeah, I guess.
He also gets like all the best one-liners.
Yeah, like he just gets all the best moments on this. Just
Him and Roadblock, like he's got a bunch of good ones, but then like Roadblock's rhyming is fully on point. This whole miniseries. Our chance of winning won't be fine when Cobra joins with Frankenstein.
That was a good line.
I guess like we're running out of things to say. I guess back. Do you have like any like other G.I. Joe recommendations based on what we liked about this?
I mean, you can just keep going. The rest of season 2 is marginally like this, and there's some really good, just like one-off sci-fi concepts. Like there's an episode where I think it's in this season. It might be in season 1 actually, but I know there's an episode that everybody really loves where a bunch of G.I. Joe characters get sent to an alternate, like post-apocalyptic timeline and meet alternate versions of themselves. This is the season with the Zorana and Mainframe episode. This is the season where there's a one-off about just a minor G.I. Joe character getting stranded on a deserted island with a cartoon original Cobra character, and like just going like, hey, not every Cobra is bad. Some of the faceless goons are just people trying to make a living, and they don't hate everybody, and you can be a person too. It's fucking Void Rivals before Void Rivals, basically. And I mean, if you like this, obviously check out Resolute, check out Renegades. My favorite of the movies is Retaliation, but I think all three of the live action movies have things to like about them. I know a lot of G.I. Joe fans think like none of the live action movies are very good, but in my opinion, they each have things to like about them. But Retaliation is clearly the best one, and one of the best movies ever made. Criminally got screwed over by the studio. Yeah, those would be kind of my recommendations. And obviously check out the comics if you can. The Marvel comic has been basically continuously running all this time. It's not at Marvel anymore. It's about to move to its third company.
Yes,
but Larry Hama has been spinning his yarns for over 300 issues now, so
yeah,
that's a good chunk of media.
I might check out the Energon Universe G.I. Joe comics that Joshua will, just because I'm like really pumped about that unit. So.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I obviously don't have a fully formed opinion on it yet, but it'll probably be something worth checking out, at least at the beginning. Other than that, I will say, like, I don't want to just sound like I'm just heaping glowing praise on this. There is one big criticism I have of this, which is basically most of Part 5 you don't really need. Because, like, Part 4 ends, and Cobra has won. They've made Serpentor. He is here, and he is big and fucking scary, and he's going toe-to-toe with Sergeant Slaughter. And then there's a to be continued. And then in episode 5, they just kick Sergeant Slaughter out, and then Serpentor's like, hey, let's go fucking storm Washington. Let's just do that right now. I'm on a roll here. Come on, let's go. And then Cobra gets furly pants trying to do that.
Well, like, I like that part because it's funny. And also they said the Pentagon, and that cracks me up.
I think there's something also to be said by having that be the 5th part of the miniseries, because they were going like, oh, we just need a new leader and that will fix all our problems, when that's not the problem. The problem is that they are incompetent to the might of G.I. Joe. And now they're just incompetent in a completely different way.
Yeah, just like G.I. Joe will always win or some shit.
But like before it was...
never give up.
Yeah, but before with like Cobra Commander, it seemed like they were incompetent as a group and an organization because they didn't think through all the possibilities and all the plans. And they were they were always able to be circumvented that way. With Serpentor, it seems like they're incompetent because it's just like go 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 go.
Yeah.
We can't go anymore. What do you mean you can't go anymore? Keep going. And like, I think that's interesting because it's also like one thing I wanted to say. I'm getting real deep philosophical here.
Oh,
Cobra Commander and Serpentor are two versions of fascistic leader and of what we have seen in human society. We have the conniving cult of personality with Cobra Commander, and with Serpentor, we have the might makes right. Oh, give me what I want, daddy kind of leader. You know?
That is a pretty good take there, actually.
Yeah, I like that take.
You know, my point was just storytelling wise. I figured it would be more suspenseful. Like, just the status quo for the rest of the season is Cobra has a new leader, and isn't he scary? But I think you're right. As like making this a whole self-contained story, it is a good idea to have that whole third act with them fighting in DC.
It's a fun special.
It's good. I need to make a list of all the characters that I really liked, and I thought, oh, that design is cool, and then see if the classifieds have them yet.
I will tell you, because you mentioned him by name, Lowlight is currently up for pre-order. He's going to be in the next 5-figure wave.
Has Sci-Fi had a figure yet?
No,
he will be though.
I mean, he's one of the if someone was like heavily featured in the cartoon, you can almost guarantee they're going to be getting a figure sooner rather than later.
And he is a sniper, right? Like, that's his position.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nighttime sniper, night ops sniper.
Mm.
Yeah, him and Lowlight both have that like same kind of role, I think.
Oh, the dog guy that just recently
no.
got a figure was in
Sci-Fi.
the series.
Junkyard
Yeah,
Mutt,
Mutton Junkyard.
Yeah.
They're
It's like,
General Hog.
that would that helped me, because I saw you guys freaking out about him recently, and it's like, oh, that guy. I know who that guy is.
Mm-hmm.
I know him.
I know him.
I know who that is. I saw him and I clapped.
Also, the BG guys with the parrot.
Oh man, I love that.
Shipwreck.
That's funny as fuck. Shore Leave is his name?
No, it's Shipwreck, isn't it?
No, it's Shore Leave.
No, it's the guy.
Shore Leave.
I'm talking
Shore
about.
Leave is the Venture Brothers reference to Shipwreck.
Oh,
Okay. You were going in a whole different direction than we were.
yeah, this guy.
Yeah,
Mr.
that's
Bee Gees.
Shipwreck.
Because of the shirt being open.
Pull up a picture of Shore Leave. Did you?
I did actually. Look at
Watch
this
Venture
fucking-
Brothers. Watch the movie.
Oh man.
Oh,
Oh,
that's a
I
good
remember
movie.
him. Holy shit.
I still need to catch up on Venture Brothers. It's really good though.
Venture Brothers. What if Rick and Morty was good?
Yeah, I mean,
And Shipwreck has like 1 or 2 scenes in this, but like it is just like perfectly like, yep, that's his character of like he is completely oblivious to what's going on because he's busy writing a letter telling a woman why he's sad that she doesn't want to go out with him.
Yeah, that was real funny. That was a real funny moment. One of the most memorable moments of the special.
But yeah, I think this is another shorter one, but like that's probably all we can really that's all the blood we can squeeze out of this stone. So I believe next month it is Snowcone's turn again. So Snowcone, do you want to let us in on what your selection is?
Tell us what we have to watch, baby.
I don't know. I've been kind of thinking. I don't know if I want to like stay with what I was doing. If I want to do so, well, how do we want to follow this too? Because we don't want to do anything new? Maybe.
No new releases at the moment is the rule for the channel until the SAG-AFTRA strike concludes.
Yeah, so nothing from 2023.
Yeah, I'd say that. 2022 and behind, we're all good.
I don't know. Then.
You did not think about this at all.
I didn't. Well,
did you
I
forget
kinda
it was
did,
your
but I
month to
cannot-
pick?
No, I mean I can't really go with what I'd want to because of that. So because it would be in theme with what I picked the last time, but it wouldn't be in.
Is it Japanese related or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would just it was just going to be another Gundam thing.
Well, here's
but-
the thing. It's only American production. So if it's foreign
Oh, really?
production, yeah, we're
Yeah.
fine. Foreign production's fine.
Oh, then let's watch. Well, I mean, there's not a lot of episodes. I think since it's all out, we should do Witch from Mercury because I
Yo,
need to finish that.
I need to finish it too.
I had no intention of starting it, but okay.
All
Well,
right.
it's very good.
Yeah,
Next
It's
time-
very
it's
good and it's very good
I'm
Gundam.
also just like, I got other stuff. But if I
Next
have to do it for
time.
the podcast, then I will watch it.
And
Next
now
time.
you do.
yeah,
Next
it's
time.
25 episodes of Modern Gundam.
Where can we find that? Just on the old Crunchyroll?
It's also on YouTube.
Yeah,
Oh.
Hulu as well, I think.
Yeah, Gundam Info is currently uploading season 2, which is like the second half.
Wherever fine Gundams are sold.
Yeah,
Gandamu.
yeah here. Don't. Should we skip the prologue or should we watch it?
I think the prologue adds to it. It's just an episode.
Yeah, they have the first 16 out of 25 episodes on YouTube.
Will all 25 be up by the time we...
No.
Okay.
Then yeah, better just go
So-
somewhere else.
Yeah,
But I
so-
thought it was done.
Oh no, there's
On
still,
YouTube. On YouTube.
yeah, it's done on Crunchyroll and everywhere else, but like,
It can be found if needed.
Would you prefer we watch the dub or the sub, Cody?
Gundam Info has the sub.
I like the sub. I think
Yeah.
the sub is good as well. I'm sure both are like usually with Gundam. Honestly, both tend to be good. When they do both right.
The dub was solid from what I listened to, but there's a casting choice that I don't like. But that's like
Okay.
very
Then we'll just do the sub. No big deal.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be surprised because there's going to be characters that you will like in this.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
I mean, push comes to shove, you can just think of it as Owl House with Mecha.
Yeah, 'cause that's my
I have heard that take several times.
Because
But-
it stars two little lesbians.
Oh boy, my favorite. I guess we'll get more into that come the end of August. So join us again when that time comes around. But before you go, listen to us plug our shit. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Modular Media, ring that bell, follow us on Twitter at the Modular Media. And follow us on Tumblr at Modular Media. Follow us on TikTok at Modular Media, and just generally everywhere. Support Modular Media. But Snowcone, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me outside of your house right now.
Oh shit!
Never_robot on Instagram.com, and that's it. Don't look for me anywhere else anymore. I don't exist.
All right, Buster, do you exist?
I do exist on YouTube.com, Buster Corp. We have various shows, just not shows, but just things I do. I do analysis stuff on whatever I'm into. I do Lakewood Podcast Turbo, a podcast going over every episode of OKKO with my buddy Wyatt. I have a Discord linked. I have a Twitter for as long as that exists. No, I'm not calling it X. Shut up. And I also have Ko-Fis and Patreons if you wish to financially support my endeavors.
All right, Boingo, where can we support your endeavors?
You can support me in a variety of places. I'm on YouTube at Boingo Writer. I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/Boingo Writer. That's where I make majority of my content. I make video essays, video reviews, and stream. You can also catch me on a variety of social media platforms at Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Boingo_Writer for as long as any of those platforms are still around. And I am on Mastodon at Boingo_Writer at VT.social. Yeah.
All right, and I am the Vacuuminator. I make YouTube videos. They're things I'm usually pretty proud of. You can find them on YouTube at the Vacuuminator. I'm also on the TikTok, posting clips of my older videos. That's at the _Vacuuminator, and that username can also be used on Instagram to find where I post daily action figure photography. And all of that gets collated on Twitter at the Vacuuminator and on Tumblr, thevacuuminator.tumblr.com. But that, dear fellows, is going to do it for this installment of Analytical Fanboys. Thank you for joining us. We will see you back here next month when we'll be discussing Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. Until then,
Gundam.
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 God damn.